So good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you're viewing from. So welcome to the webinar, The Future of Marketing Loyalty-Led Strategies in a Cookieless World. So a safer and more privacy-driven digital landscape, hasn't this been always our goal? But as we move closer to a cookieless world, advertisers and marketers are sent into a quandary of finding intelligent and effective solutions in place of what has been the cornerstone of our marketing campaigns. So today we're going to take the focus on something that we're not entirely new to, which is loyalty marketing, in fact, a constant in our playbooks, and explore it in a new light. So together with our marketing leaders from some of the top companies in Southeast Asia, we are going to find how loyalty marketing can be just the key to a cookieless future, and in turn learn how data plays into creating future-ready loyalty marketing. So before we officially start, I'd like to remind you of a few basic house rules for us today. So all of you, the participants, are muted, but we do encourage you to interact with us and send out any questions that you have for the presentation, also the panel discussion later on the Q&A chat below. So we're going to attend to them later at the dedicated Q&A portion. So now I am pleased to introduce you to our first presenter for today. She is Lisa Collins, the Director of Customer Experience Strategy at Oracle, and she will be discussing with you loyalty marketing in a cookieless future.
Everybody, it's a real pleasure to be here with you today as we take one step closer to a brave new cookieless world. Now, what does Adidas making $22 million in under 2 minutes have to do with navigating this future? And what does any of it have to do with loyalty marketing? Well, I'm Lisa Collins, the Director of Strategy for CX at Oracle, where I advise executives who are reinventing their customer experience capabilities in order to drive innovation and profitable business growth. Now, if you're here today to learn about why loyalty marketing holds the key to navigating the cookieless future, the good news is you're in the right room, on the right Zoom call, in the right place. So today we're going to have a look at the cookie apocalypse and how cutting-edge innovations in loyalty can help. And we're going to unpack some of the work that brands like Red Bull Racing are doing to get closer to customers. Now, why loyalty? Remember, third-party cookies created value for brands by sharing data about user behavior on sites other than the ones they're actually on. So they help to inform ID syncing and in many cases, third-party data audiences. And without them, marketers are beginning to see a drop in their retargeting precision, an overall downgrade of the personalized experiences they can deliver from acquisition through to engagement and conversion, and an ultimate drop-off in their campaign results. Now, in 2020, eMarketer found that about 79% of marketers rely on third-party cookies and third-party data to determine audience identity. And with the deprecation of third-party cookies on the horizon, this means that they have some challenges, and we need to find some ways to fill the gaps to deliver seamless experiences across the customer journey. Now, pretty much from next year, we will no longer be able to use third-party cookies as a proxy for identity. So today, brands are solving for the shift in identity tracking through a couple of ways. So first, they're moving to a more heavy first and second party data strategy and away from as much reliance on third-party data. But of course, third-party data does still have a role to play. For digital advertising in particular, they're looking to identity partners with the right ecosystem integrations for activation. And lastly, they're also looking at overlaying digital analytics data that is captured from your website or apps, for instance, with contextual intelligence audiences to determine new ways to do contextual targeting. But we need to take a step back and actually think about why this is happening. It's because consumers are fed up with giving over their personal and behavioral data, with their only reward being more personalized advertising. They want to be rewarded for consuming content, for engagement, for their own creative contribution. And this is partly why the ethos around Web3 is resonating so strongly. Now, the good news is that what they're asking from us is to respect them by building trust. Research has consistently shown that people are willing to share data and respond to marketing activities. And actually, once you get to know them better, they expect deep personalization. But in order to get that initial response, firms must first improve perceptions of privacy and use data in ways that are contextual, authentic, and empathetic. Now, who's doing this really well at the moment? Well, the cool kids over in the crypto clubhouse are rewarding their audiences in new and unexpected ways. Now, blockchain, of course, is making massive waves in the loyalty world overall, whether it's the fabric of loyalty partner infrastructure or its enablement of Web3 that allows content to be created, shared, and monetized in fundamentally new ways. But what isn't new is that bold brands are using loyalty to reward what we call brand valuable behavior. So let's start off with the Bored Ape Yacht Club, one of the most influential and expensive NFT collections in the world. With a minimum price of around $3,000 or 86 Ethereum and up to 3.4 million for this one on the right-hand side, owning an NFT of an ape gives you more than just bragging rights. So one of the ways to join this exclusive club is to purchase an ape now on the secondary market, which rewards the early movers. And member rewards also include ways to both spend and earn money. So for instance, they get access to exclusive collaborations with the real world brands who have been using loyalty to drive engagement with fans for years. In this case, Adidas, who is no stranger to encouraging streetwear enthusiasts to compete to get limited edition and limited run product drops. So when Adidas dropped their first NFTs, they made $22 million in under 2 minutes by partnering with the Bored Ape Yacht Club. At a mid price for their apes of about 0.2 Ethereum or about $800, holders of these new NFTs gained access to two key benefits. The first was real-world exclusive merchandise, like a limited edition tracksuit. And secondly, digital merchandise, like early access to new NFTs, access codes for future sneaker drops, parties in the metaverse, and also opportunities to make money from their own digital creations. Web3, the metaverse, NFTs. Now, these are all being used by bold brands to reward this brand valuable behavior. For instance, Gary Vee's latest project is a sushi restaurant in New York, where to get a reservation, you have to be a member, but to be a member, you have to hold an NFT. So you can only book a seat at the restaurant if you hold that NFT. Now, what's new about this loyalty mechanism is because technically you can actually loan or lease that NFT out to somebody else who wants to make a restaurant booking, which means that unlike loyalty clubs today, membership is both transferable and gives people an additional dividend or revenue stream as NFT owners. Secondly, earlier this year in 2022, the Australian Open did a fantastic job with exploring ways to engage and reward fans by connecting the real world and virtual worlds. So they rebuilt and replicated the Rod Laver Arena, where they hold the event every year, in Decentraland. It was remarkable. They managed to build it in about 3 months, which is really extraordinary. They had exclusive content and merch that was only available in Decentraland. But what was really interesting is that they sold NFTs, allowing fans to effectively own a piece of Australian Open history. It was an art ball that you can see here on the left-hand side, an example of one of the images related to that. And each of those balls were linked to an individual plot on the official Australian Open court with the real data and match winning points associated with them. Now, why is this relevant to personalized targeting at scale? Well, let's look at how we got here.
Communicating online is the hot thing right now. Your on-ramp to the information superhighway. It offers everything from shopping to discussion with other people in areas like finance, sports, hobbies, books, and movies. I'll log on with my name and password. Now we're dialing. Okay, the choices on screen include MSN Today, email, and favorite places.
Okay, sports. Let's download some Ukrainian hockey cards or hook up with some college football fans.
Jennifer, do you like cats?
No.
Oh, then you're gonna love this.
Did I just say no? Oh, look, and there's the pets area.
I see where this is going. Stop him, please.
The scratching post.
Pull the plug. Is there anybody in charge here?
God, oh boy, an entire gallery of cats owners' photos.
Do they have an audio tour with this?
Let's look at buttons.
Oh, now you've lost any chance you might have ever had.
So this is an example of Web 1.0. It was pretty much like going to a library. Now, some of you on the call may not remember this, but for those of you who do, I'm pretty sure that you were smiling to yourself the same way that I was. And of course, this video was actually taken in the 90s when, for any Friends fans out there, Jennifer Aniston and Matthew Perry were really big deals. Now, think about Web 1.0 as read only. And then we began to watch in the 2000s, we began to see Web 2.0 begin to emerge. So let's have a look at what that experience was like.
You playing that game again?
Second Life is not a game. It is a multi-user virtual environment. It doesn't have points or scores. It doesn't have winners or losers.
Oh, it has losers.
I signed up for Second Life about a year ago. Back then, my life was so great that I literally wanted a second one. In my second life, I was also a paper salesman, and I was also named White. Absolutely everything was the same, except I could fly.
In this, we can see that Web 2.0 really evolved to become more participatory. So content was both downloaded and accessed, but also uploaded as well. But this was also really centralized. So the companies that had your data, that created these experiences, were all coming from centralized companies like Second Life or Facebook or Google, for instance. And then we come to Web 3. Now, the first concept of the decentralized web, which really looks at an internet experience that is decentralized. Nobody really owns everything, or everybody has small participatory ownership of the different applications and the infrastructure that are available. There are no intermediaries. People really have direct connections into content consumption and also product and services consumption as well. And effectively, it really gives users full ownership over their content, data, and assets via blockchain. So really, blockchain is the fundamental framework that this is built on top of. So with a third party like Facebook, they own your identity in Web 2, and your identity in Web 3 can really move freely between different platforms without your data necessarily being captured and monetized by service providers. Oracle then, for our own story, we began to engage in the Linux open source Hyperledger blockchain project. So our story began in the blockchain space in about mid-2017. We began to develop private blockchain and public blockchain capabilities that are available to customers today. But this is really still back-end technical experts who were aware of blockchain and what the possibilities actually were. And then comes 2020 and 2021, where there were dramatic rises and falls of Bitcoin. And this really spurred public interest in blockchain and crypto in particular. And then when it really began to enter into the retail consciousness was pretty much around early 2021. So on the bottom image that you can see, this is there were 33 NFTs of a 3-year-old album that a DJ called DJ Blau had created, and he managed to auction them off for $11.6 million. A couple of weeks later, a digital artist called Beeple, who has the image on top, who used to sell his digital images for about $100 a pop, managed to auction off the NFT of this image for $69 million at an auction. And then we began to see the celebrities jump on the bandwagon. So Martha Stewart came out with a Halloween-themed NFT project in October. We began to see like Post Malone showing his Bored Ape Yacht Club images in his music videos. Paris Hilton in this year went on to Jimmy Kimmel, to one of the Jimmys, to speak about NFTs and exactly explain what they were. And then Madonna entered into the space. Pretty much it became a very highly buzzworthy topic. Now, analysts like Morgan Stanley or Goldman Sachs are particularly bullish on crypto and Web3 in particular. They're looking at a lot of comparisons between the early internet and the behaviors and the growth that we're beginning to see, and where crypto adoption is actually at today. Now, very briefly, I'm not going to go into this in detail, but if you want to learn more about exactly what the different layers are, there are protocol layers, infrastructure, specific use cases, and ways that you can access Web3. You can go to coinbase.com. There's a link at the bottom of the screen, and you can learn more about that. But we're going to look at a couple of use cases specifically around engaging with consumers in the Web3 space. A lot of analysts are looking at and projecting to see where things are going. But if you're really interested in learning more about this space, I would recommend that you go straight to the coalface, which is Twitter, Telegram, Discord. Note to self, don't click on any private links or DMs that you receive on the Discord channels. But this is really where people are engaging in super innovative discussions. They're coming up with interesting use cases. They're sharing information about what other brands are doing. And it's definitely worth checking them out. Now, We spoke about the Australian Open, and let's have a look at the Australian Open art ball side and bring the conversation back to identity, which is really where the cookie apocalypse was creating a lot of upset for marketers. You can see here that when I go onto the Australian Open art ball site, that I need to connect with my MetaMask wallet to access the site, and yet I'm still being tracked with cookies. So what does this really mean? Well, marketers have already been testing viable alternatives to third-party cookies, and really this is all based on identity. Identity is tied to a wallet like MetaMask, a first-party cookie like Google Analytics, or one that Oracle Infinity might set, precise contextual data that scrapes the content of individual pages like Oracle Contextual Intelligence, previously called Grapeshot, a UID tied to an email address, or Google Topics, which is the successor to Flock, which lets you target at a URL domain level. So not only do we have this proliferation of channels that we need to be personalizing experiences across, we have multiple identities that we need to cater for. And Web3, in an additional complication, promises consumers, as I mentioned before, that they'll be able to control and carry their identities with them instead of relying on a centralized platform to create that and identify them. And this, of course, is only going to continue to increase as we engage with customers across ever more immersive environments. In fact, what we've really been trying to get to for years is people-based marketing. We could probabilistically and deterministically link some sets of ideas to an individual for better targeting, but it was still disconnected in the broader scheme of things, which is why one of the key strategies to countering this deprecation of third-party cookies and precise targeting at scale includes the development of a first-party data marketing stack. But what's in the way? We need consumers to give us permission when it suits them to track them on mobile or to use their email addresses or phone numbers or login IDs or wallet IDs so that we can stitch them together and stitch together personalized experiences in a way that gives them back control. And we need to start rewarding customers in ways that are meaningful for them, which is where loyalty comes in. So let's think about the kind of journey that we could create today for Jason, who's on his way to becoming a smart bike owner. Let's say we are targeting him on his mobile and work computer browsers for a new smart exercise bike. There are, of course, multiple identities that we need to make sure that we can connect together to have consistent targeting. And let's say he decides to buy the bike. So he comes into one of our partner stores in the metaverse. He chats to a chatbot or an avatar, or even perhaps directly to a customer service or sales representative, and he decides to buy the bike and the recommended accessories. Now, let's say he's bought the bike, but he's only used it once, and this is a challenge because we need to make sure he's continuously using it and engaging with our products to make sure that he can become a loyal customer. So what we can do is we can send him a push notification to his phone to prompt him to fill out a survey, letting us know what his exercise goals are. And we can see that he struggles to stay motivated consistently. And sometimes he's low on cash for ongoing repairs to his equipment because he's just pretty much too busy to do other things. So we encourage him to join the Move and Earn loyalty program and to get the NFT of the bike that he's bought, which is both a collectible and a way to earn rewards in new ways. For instance, as he cycles on his bike and he holds the NFT, he can actually be rewarded with tokens that can be pushed back into his real life wallet in cash. The tokens can be used to vote in the DIO that determines whether profits from this initiative should be focused. And even what he can do is to lease out this NFT to people that he meets at event meetups so that they both earn tokens and they earn points essentially while they're riding the bike and the other person is holding the NFT. And of course, lastly, you could also use these tokens within the entire environment. It could be for insurance or repairs or any other kind of subscriptions as well. So what I've just showed you is something that's possible to do today. And this is also having that first party data foundation is really critical to creating that seamless experience and knowing when to reach out to Jason and with what kind of message. And this is really a challenge that award-winning loyalty programs have already been solving for. Filling the gaps on your valuable first-party data on your most engaged customers, understanding cross-channel behavior, building direct-to-consumer connections, deepening personalization, and also improving your marketing ROI attribution. So what does this look like in practice? Well, let's have a look at the Red Bull Racing Paddock Loyalty Program, which was launched in October 2021. Now, it's already generated substantial engagement, including significant growth in their fan account members, and earned kudos from fans around the world with members in over 180 different countries. So this is an example of a brand building out their first-party data strategy, measured by the increase in the number of touch points they have with their fan base, and also with their 360-degree view of the fan. Now, for many brands who are very much focused in the offline world and with bricks and mortar stores, for instance, they can actually start a program like this by encouraging first-party data collection with in-store data capture. So they can allow consumers to upload store receipts from any point of sale to get points and to begin to open the loyalty program. In this way, brands can also capture and understand what are all the different touch points where people are buying their products, but also consuming their products as well. So it could be in a store, through a partner, or even at sporting venues. Now, in the Red Bull Racing Paddock, once an account is created, Red Bull Racing can reward people for engaging with something as simple as a quiz that you can see here, but they can also run surveys to collect customer information and preferences, or even to learn about who their other favorite brands are, other favorite teams or musicians who they might want to invite to a race day event. And of course, customers earn points for answering these kinds of questions. Activities like referring friends, viewing new content, new promotions, new videos, completing a task, or even event trackside attendance are all examples of new brand valuable behavior that can be rewarded. Red Bull Racing also wanted a way to engage with fans during the off-season. So the paddock allows year-round access to incredible money can't buy rewards, sweepstakes, competitions, Easter egg hunts, and also VIP curated experiences and fandom memorabilia, like a digitally signed card from one of the drivers, or even a shirt that they would have worn in a particular race. One of the other kinds of rewards is also their digital collectibles. So this also gives them an insight into their fan willingness to engage in new platforms and products like NFTs. But importantly as well, they can begin to build out a store of fan wallet IDs and begin to establish whether this is an area that they want to invest in further. Okay, so now let's say you want to give this a go, you want to try this out. You think that your brand has an opportunity to create, engage with your audiences in Web3 spaces. What's really important to these kinds of communities? Well, the first, of course, is hype. There are over 12,000 different kinds of projects, and these are growing every single day. And if there is no social support or support on typical Web3 platforms that I mentioned previously, these kinds of tokens and projects just aren't going to be noticed by the retail market. So you want to check out to make sure that you're engaging with people very actively in channels like Twitter, Discord, and Telegram. People also want to know that this is a really exclusive club. I don't know if you just heard that, but I just had a massive thunder and lightning outside. So this is clearly really good advice. People also want to really know and have a feeling that people that they know and like want to get into this club, that there's a sense of exclusivity, that there's a lot of PR and buzz that shows up in above the line media channels as well. This is a little tip for you guys. So screenshot, write this down, definitely worth checking out. If you want to look at any hype tools or benchmarking to look at the kinds of hype that different projects have, go to Crypto Slam for NFTs and Lunar Crush for coins. And this gives you an idea of the kinds of social buzz that different projects are creating, but also for investors, it helps you look at the market cap and the price of these different projects as well. Now, secondly, what's really important to Web3 communities? Well, you should have a very easy to understand program or offer or project. So for instance, Brave is a privacy browser or a gateway to Web3. Stepin is a relatively new project where you can earn rewards for running or walking, and Boson allows you to connect to e-commerce in the metaverse. So really easy to understand concepts, make it really easy for people to pick up. There are a couple of investment platforms, if you're just looking at it from an investment perspective. Some that are really technical and that have a lot of features are about a third as expensive of ones that are really simple and just easy to use. So simplicity is key here. And lastly, you want to make sure that the team behind your project has credibility. So especially for if you have a brand that's not necessarily very closely connected into Web3, or you're wanting to make a big splash, you want to make sure that you have a team that gives regular updates, that speaks regularly to your community, that the team has a relevant background as advisors or partners, and that you really begin to show how A, you're invested in communities, but also B, you come from a really great pedigree when it comes to Web3 and technology. Now, the kinds of results that I've been sharing with you are really typical across the broad suite of customer experience solutions that Oracle provides across marketing, sales, service, advertising, and CDP. And this actually is a picture of our own internal marketing engine that we use for our own business. So we put our tech to work with a conceptual framework of helping customers to discover, engage, consume, and to serve them at the highest level to drive this world-class marketing engine. And as a result, we've been able to speed up our own campaign launches. We've been able to reduce the sales research time that our sales teams have to go through. We've doubled our lead conversion, and we've also shortened the time to service our customers as well. To wrap up, let's talk takeaways. Now, amid the scramble about what to do when Google is away with third-party cookies in Chrome next year, remember to use modern loyalty strategies to continue to not only build relationships, but to reward brand valuable behavior that helps you build trust and build the value of your first-party data stores. Secondly, brands successfully experimenting in the crypto space are demonstrating a high degree of awareness of community, customer perceptions, and motivations, which means that they can create exciting experiences that make it worth people's time to engage. And lastly, modern loyalty marketers focusing on encouraging brand valuable behaviors show techniques that we can actually use to develop this consensual and valuable first-party data insight. Now, it's been great sharing this with you today. I think we'll continue the conversation. Shina, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa. What a really comprehensive and insightful presentation. Thank you so much, Lisa. I think you really hit the nail on the head there. You were not just talking about loyalty marketing, but what loyalty marketing is looks like in the Web3 that is now really coming to fruition in our digital activities and landscape. So we do have a few questions here, but unfortunately, to those who have sent questions, we can only accommodate one question for now for Lisa, but we're gonna get back to you later on after the panel discussion.
There's a concern that brand connection online can feel detached from tangible reality. How can brands deliver engagement that would merge both online and offline? I think in business and in life, there are many examples of people who've created very successful organizations for their customers, for their employees, for their stakeholders, but they themselves have been perhaps not particularly happy, or they've been, they haven't felt particularly fulfilled in the rest of their lives. I think it's similar with the metaverse. I think it's similar with these really immersive spaces. The brands, and for me personally, the brands that really take care with your data, that show respect through making sure that you feel like you have control. These are the kinds of brands that typically will also want to make sure that you have control and ownership over your experience in a space, and will hopefully also want to encourage you to engage in those spaces in a really healthy way. There are a lot of great examples of education and mental health organizations that are showing up in these spaces where they're really promoting health and access to information that a lot of people across the world wouldn't have access to otherwise in really new and interesting ways. So I would definitely say, as a consumer, as a business person, it's really important to be aware of issues around privacy, of issues around respect for consumers, and health and well-being for people. So this is a space that is growing and changing really quickly. And I would definitely kind of make a note of that and continue to see how brands evolve in this space as well.
Yeah, that's really the focus of the brands right now. There's the healthy exchange of data between consumers and brands. So yeah, we do have a lot of great questions, but as I mentioned, we're gonna get back to them, Lisa, later on. So I did see a few here that are really interesting, such as loyalty marketing, not making it repetitive and all that. So we're going to get back to that later. It is my pleasure to moderate today's panel discussion, and I'd like to introduce each one of them. It's my honor to be able to share the floor with the marketing leaders of some of the top companies in the region to shed further light on the impact of loyalty marketing on the situation that we have at hand in digital advertising. So joining me today are Norsha Juju Juhari. She is the Vice President of Product Marketing at Astro Malaysia. And then we also have Andy Factora, the Head of Marketing Communications, E-commerce and Retail at Canon Philippines. And of course, you've met her already earlier. Lisa Collins is also joining us. Again, she's the Director of Customer Experience Strategy at Oracle. I'm really excited to have this discussion for today. Lisa was able to really kick it off in such a comprehensive way, and was able to really share a lot about where we're heading to in the Web3 community. So I'd like to start the discussion with this question. So now that we're moving into a period where the premium is on first-party data strategy, how is your organization approaching this today? So I'd like to throw this question to those on the brand side. So Juju, what have been your efforts on this front in Astro as a media company?
I think Astro is really well positioned in this regard, as we have a huge ecosystem of pay TV subscribers, shoppers from our shopping Go Shop platform. Of course, obviously, we have consumption pattern from the shows that our consumers watch on TV or streaming on apps. And of course, this kind of content that they watch tell us a lot about their psychographic demographics, definitely interest. We also have a sizable presence in radio, across YouTube, social, with our entertainment portals, right? So therefore, we have our own marketplace, which is, to be honest, rather complete. So sustaining it is another matter, but I think the discussion is today, in the future, without third-party cookies. What we have learned is that brands need to be better in capturing leads and interests with at least flex the registration layer really well. And I think this, for example, in our case, with free previews, e-coupons, sampling is also a great strategy before converting customers into subscribing, right? The other one that I find working for us in flexing first-party data is consistency in the way that we flex our first, and consistency in driving conversation via social, also driving peer recommendation, netizen reviews, and also driving a lot of edutainment content to fuel demand creation. So I'm really interested in the Web3 loyalty tools that Lisa have shared earlier, and definitely we will explore to adopt some of those. It is still very much in the infancy in Malaysia. But the other one, because I think that can really fuel the creation of a community with shared interests, which is easier said than done. But in a cookieless world, we will definitely need to rely more on tribal affiliations and own marketplace algorithms for brands to be better positioned with customers.
Thank you, Juju. How about you, Anvi? What have been your first-party data strategies that you have been implementing in Canon Philippines?
You have to take note that we're a consumer brand, and a consumer brand, loyalty remains one of the key in terms of winning the market. So when the pandemic happened, a little step back 2 years ago, we really had a bigger problem to somehow gain new customers, because you can just imagine, no one's traveling, you cannot go out, there's no wedding, there's no events. It's hard for you to attract new customers, and that's where loyalty comes into play. First-hand data, in a cookieless world is very important. So what are the strategies that we have? Maybe a little step back also, platforms that we currently take advantage of is, of course, website would always be key. Understanding your customer data on the website perspective is very important. While it somehow takes a little challenge for some marketers to understand it, it's going to be beneficial, especially when you're really into understanding data marketing. Second is, of course, we have always been creating our own loyalty programs through applications. So we have our own app in the Philippines. We call it Canon Red app. So it basically captures all the data, of course, with the consent of our clients and our current users. And the best strategy for us is to make sure that there is a different said strategy to those platforms. So there's a different strategy for the website data. There's also a different strategy of remarketing to an app data. But to encapsulate everything, the strategy is actually divided into a 4-pronged approach. approach one, test the data, learn the data and understand data, recalibrate as needed, and then of course lastly is to constantly measure the business impact. Because again, at the end of the day, the data would always, the first-hand data would always be good as a complementary. It would be a very small scale as compared to third-party data, but it's one of the richest data that you can pull in because this is direct customers that you already have. So the best way for us is to complement your first-hand data or your first-party data, and then align it with how you understand second and even third-party data.
I think that's a really great insight, Andy. Like as you've said earlier, I think you're moving into a multi-platform strategy, that you have the app and the website, and you're really applying different strategies to each one of them, and also the four-pronged approach that you've mentioned earlier. Yeah. So now I want to move further on the other side of the fence. So now, what do you think are the strategies that we can apply in order to create future-ready loyalty marketing? So what do you think is the role of data in creating future-ready loyalty programs? So I'd like to now throw the question to Lisa, someone who's been dealing with strategy for customer experience. So how do you think data plays into the development of loyalty marketing?
That's a great question. Oracle comes from a deep pedigree in data. So we are an incredibly well-engineered company that focuses on data. So oftentimes what we'll do when we have solutions that we acquire is we integrate them into a data foundation so that all the applications and the frameworks that sit off of that infrastructure layer are able to talk to each other. And I think that's something that's similar with brands as well, is that when you have really excellent loyalty and marketing campaigns overall, you'll often find that AI is used in many different stages of the loyalty process and the customer journey. So there were some examples, I think, in the chats about that, people asking, how do I get the most out of my program? If you have capabilities that are determining what is the next best action that I should have with this customer, is this customer fatigued with all of my marketing messages and I just shouldn't message them for the next couple of weeks? If they've taken this particular action and viewed this video, are they more likely to view another video or to begin to add something to their cart, for instance, if you're a retail brand? All of that runs on data. So if you have messy data informing the AI models that you're using to pump the performance of your marketing campaigns and your CX overall, it really reduces the effectiveness of your overall campaigns and what's possible. So building out those clean stores of data are important, but also from a loyalty perspective, loyalty really allows you to pull in new data that people haven't had access to before. So I was listening to one of the leads at Red Bull Racing around the new program that they launched, and she was saying that they have insight into where people are coming together to talk about the brand. They have insight into what's important to people that they never really had before. So I think this concept of zero-party data, or basically information people are giving you about them straight from their mouth through surveys or quizzes, really helps to inform the kinds of segmentation that you can do as well for loyalty marketing, because ideally you should be giving people different kinds of journeys depending on their relationship with you as well.
Really using just the data to be able to identify the triggers of consumers, like how likely they are to stay within a certain video, or also like what you've said, maybe determining also the consumer if they're fatigued over a certain loyal program. So yeah, so over to you, Juju. In Astro, I do understand that as a satellite operator and also media company, you're really strong on subscription and also loyalty programs. So what have been your loyalty efforts, and how do you think data comes into play in preparing them for the future?
First off, I love loyalty as a marketing tool because it has that flexibility to be stretched either strategically or tactically, right? Very two different marketing approaches, which we currently now interchange and adopt depending on our loyalty objectives. So we're a data-driven, insights-led company, and this has really helped transform transform our rewards program as we develop differentiated program across our huge subscriber base. I think the one thing which is significant today is our mission is to leverage our strength in the media and entertainment business by bringing in experiences that only Astro can offer. So basically, money can buy experiences. I think I echo what Lisa said. Money cannot buy experiences. Inviting customers to our live shows, exclusive celebrity meet and greets, securing tickets for events that are otherwise very hard to get access to, such as Malaysia Cup finals, regional F1 races. So as Astro customers, right, they don't just get to enjoy amazing content, but more experiential access as well. And this is what we want to bring to the table. We curate deals, we curate offers. They are only exclusive to existing customers, which further improve their lives. For example, we give them better price bundles, especially with home fiber offers. That is really aligned with our one home, one internet vision for Malaysia. We're still a developing country, so I think helping netizens achieve their goals is important for us, right? And definitely we cannot deliver all these programs if it's not powered by data and analytics. So yeah, that's pretty much what we do.
It's just really being able to bank on the exclusivity of your content. And also, I think this is something that Lisa was able to touch on her presentation, that loyalty is really not just about, rewards and all that, but it's heightening the engagement of the consumers, such as, I think, Lisa, you mentioned quizzes, right? And also surveys. Yeah. So I do like to ask this question to each one of you. So now that Lisa has already really painted a good picture of where we're heading now, the Web3, the NFTs, and also the metaverse. So I'd like to ask each one of you, what trends do you think will have the biggest impact on performance and loyalty marketing in 2 to 3 years? So that would be 2025, right? To 2026. So maybe let's start with you, Andy. So what is your take on this?
There are three trends. I definitely agree with Lisa when she mentioned that actually metaverse, NFTs, blockchain, Web 3.0 would be the future. So there are three trends that I'm looking at, especially in the local market. So number one, metaverse. Loyalty programs will definitely tap into NFTs to engage and reward a lot of customers. This could be relevant into a consumer to consumer perspective, or even into business to business industries. So we're seeing this, especially in Canon, starting to be very relevant, because some of our photographers are also venturing towards NFTs, minting, and starting their own, to build their own credibilities on the said platforms. And with that, brands need to really adopt and to create their own strategy aligned with this trend. Number two, e-commerce. We are right now in an e-commerce revolution. We've been seeing a lot of people. For me, 2020 is actually going to be a year of access and purchase everything 24/7. I saw this trend when I was in Alibaba a few years ago, and loyalty plays a big role in this kind of industry we're in. It has to be aligned to your efforts, because now people can purchase your product wherever they are in a single click. You have relevant platforms such as Lazada, Shopee, and everything. So a brand, to build its own loyalty, should not stay only in retail platforms. You have to understand the new retail model, which is again a hybrid approach. And then of course, lastly, is digital currency. Digital currency will be really the future. A lot of brands right now, or even establishment locally, have been adopting to this kind of approach. It's not just anymore you have your own paper money, you pay your bills. Now there are, for you to have loyalty and continue to build that loyalty with your solid customer base, you have to offer them flexibility. Flexibility by means of offering them either credit card, digital currency through a different platform, and so on and so forth. So again, on my perspective, three very important trends: metaverse, NFTs, e-commerce, and digital currency.
Thank you so much, Anvi. I'm quite interested on this insight that you've shared, which is e-commerce revolution. So would you care to maybe just elaborate on
Sure.
how you see
We've been seeing loyalty right now. Actually, we've been seeing a trend. If you're very familiar with the retail market, because I also handle the retail business of Canon, it's very aligned with all the things that we do on the retail. So majority of our actually operations, around 80 to 90%, is relying on retail, and we know that retail has a specific time frame in terms of operating hours, and you have that as around 10 a.m. to maybe 10 p.m. So after that is your customers cannot access your products anymore. And that's when the time we're in, if your competitors are in a different platform that they can access, they would definitely consider. Because again, right now, Filipinos really wanted access to the products. Gone are the days that they still wanted to touch and try certain products. If they need it, they would buy it immediately, and they're willing to shell out some money for it. No, this could be high ticket items. This could be entry model cameras, or even as low as an ink. Like for example, you could just imagine the Philippines is an archipelago. So if they go to a certain area that doesn't have this product, it costs them already parking, it costs them already gasoline, it costs them already, of course, being exposed to the virus. So that's where, again, they change the brand. That's where loyalty comes into play. The customers become loyal if they get access to your product services 24/7. And that's the importance of e-commerce in our perspective, is giving them a gateway to the brand 24/7, whether they like the product or not. They can browse through it, they can look at the reviews, and immediately purchase if they wish to.
It's really just being able to leverage on that high accessibility and availability for them to be able to be a loyal consumer. Yeah. So I'd like to go back to you, Juju. So same question. What do you think will be the next trend in loyalty and marketing, performance and loyalty marketing in 2 to 3 years?
I definitely would anticipate bigger use of NFT deployment as brands will gear up towards Web3, right? Definitely, I can see that happening already with some of the big brands, as Lisa have highlighted, have taken the lead globally. Astro have also started and will definitely flex this much more flex this much better moving forward. The other trend that I can see is where brands will better utilize recommendation engines, therefore much deeper personalization. The other trend I can see that will definitely will be very relevant will be the focus on experiences. The big part of the world is now on an endemic stage, and world travel, events, concerts will resume, unleashing really pent-up demand. And the third is, I think, is focus on service, certainly. Digitally enabled, of course. And finally, I think brands can really play a role with their loyalty programs in either community work, in order to deliver better social impact. I think we're all more aware of our role in bettering society and helping others. So if brands can leverage their loyalty programs to meet these emotional needs, it will be a big differentiation.
Definitely NFTs. And I think I couldn't more agree with what you've said with the experiential aspect of marketing now that we're in the new normal. And we've been, we've been taken away of that experience for the past 2 years. We're now looking at experiences at a different light. So yeah, so just to be able to close this conversation, I'd like to, of course, throw the same question to Lisa. So what are your insights on this? What are the trends you see having the biggest impact on performance and loyalty marketing in the next year?
So I've spoken about a couple of them already. I think Web3 as it relates to utility. So the tip I always give is look for projects that don't just rely on hype to be successful. They should have an ongoing engagement. There should be utility for the product that they offer. So there should be some real world value to something. Because unless you're an insider, you probably will be fleeced at some point in the future. We've seen a lot across OpenSea with the insider trading that they had. Web3 world seems to be very open to a lot of those kinds of transgressions that would put you in jail in the real world. The second is gamification and what we actually reward. I love that example that you gave, Juju, about really creating experiential experiences, and money can't buy experiences. So the conversation around the product economy, the services economy, the experience economy is sort of a buzzword that's been around for the last few years. The next phase of that is really called the transformational economy, where you transform how you experience yourself as a result of engaging with something new. And we actually did this with one of our customers. For those of you who are into zombies, AMC's The Walking Dead, when they were using our loyalty program, one of the rewards that they actually had was somebody got to come to set, get dressed up with zombie makeup and then be an extra on the set for a day. And for anybody who, like, it's such a cool and exciting experience. It's those kinds of things that I think people really want to engage with, and they become something that people want to share about and they want to talk about. It makes other people feel happy when they see people with those kinds of rewards. And then lastly, data foundations. I spoke about data and how important it is. There is definitely a much stronger push to building out first-party data stores. Again, I think doing that in a way that has a platform that is powerful enables you to not only create segments and understand your customers in new ways, but also adhere to privacy concerns and management of their data. That is really important, especially as legislation begins to change across the regions that we work across.
Very nicely for the transformational economy. And you've actually already mentioned about legislation. We do have a question from the audience, something around that. So we have a lot of questions that came in from the audience, and we're now gonna answer each one of them. So just to be able to tie that, Lisa, on what you've mentioned about regulation. So we do have a question from Edward, and he actually redirected this to you earlier. So what are your thoughts on the cookie consent banner in line with the GDPR? So this is the consent that comes up with on the websites for tracking cookies.
I presume that what you mean is those banners that nobody ever reads and everybody just clicks yes, but all the companies are doing it because they're forced to. I don't know if you guys remember, was it a couple of years ago when they people who were email marketers, the legislation was changed and they had to actively get people's opt-in. And so you suddenly got this flurry of emails from random brands that you hadn't thought of for years asking you for your consent.
Yes.
Brands that, and there's some great examples of brands that do this really well and that really take user experience into account, is to make things simple. Make it really clear what you're tracking, how you're tracking, make it easy for people to call you up if they need to, or to reach out if they want to get copies of a copy of the dates that you have on them. For me, it's really, I look for companies that make things easy and simple to understand, have really taken an effort to make sure that you feel like you're protected. So that's one of the things I think about. Of course, when it comes to banners, when it comes to legislation, there are certain things that you have to do, but it's really how you do it that makes the difference.
You couldn't be more right, of course. Unfortunately, we don't really read those things. It's really about simplifying the communication. So we also have here about loyalty marketing. So what are the factors marketers consider when creating a powerful rewards program that can strengthen customers' loyalty? So I think anyone could answer, from Juju or Andy.
Maybe for a consumer point of view, consumer product point of view, we have to factor in how the evolution of consumer journey is right now in creating loyalty programs and loyalty mechanisms. So we know for a fact that as marketers right now, with the new and the better normal, as we all know, consumer behavior, consumer purchase patterns has changed. So you have to consider really how they are adapting to the new situation, which platform are relevant to them, how do they digest information nowadays, and more importantly is, of course, tailor fit and create certain strategies that are not a shotgun approach, but rather a tailor fit to a certain segment that you wanted to attract. Of course, we know that different target audience, different profile entails different approach, and that's how we approach it in Canon, is really creating strategies that are overarching but at the same time also relevant on a particular segment. Say for example, content creators, YouTubers, vloggers, even professional photographers. You have to create certain messages for them to make sure that, of course, the brand and even the products are going to be aligned to what they wanted. And content creation is actually a trend as well right now.
I understand, for example, if you sell jewelry, right? How many pictures of jewelry can you send to your email list? So it's about making it, sometimes it need not be about jewelry. It can be content which is useful. It could be about current affairs. It could be even about, so I think for brands to develop engagement strategy that works for them, not necessarily just product-centric communication. So I think that has worked really well for us. So edutainment, popular culture, and and within that, the minute you trigger promotions and product communication, that is when it is extremely well received, and to make it less repetitive. So I hope this answers the question.
Yes, yes, I think it's a really great insight, Juju. It's just expanding the content that you bring to your consumers and not just about the products and the brand, but also just human interest um, content and also just going beyond just talking about the present the social issues that are relevant today.
So one of them was using NFTs as rewards seem to be dependent a lot on the brand's popularity. Is this a strategy smaller businesses can adopt? For me, I mean, the NFT space, personally, I will continue to look at. I think that there is a lot of hype and overinflation of the actual value of NFTs. So what I kind of look to more is, how do you have a small audience, but one that is deeply engaged and are likely to be wild fans that want to go and spread your message wider? If you do want to go and engage in some kind of a Web3 or NFT based project, make sure it's something that has utility. So it's not necessarily just an NFT of an ape that you're holding on to for investment purposes. It's something that helps you to make additional money or vote on something, or it makes the project itself valuable. So when you look at people who create valuable loyalty programs in the Web3 world, they tend to look at them like projects. So I think of one of the most successful projects, the one that I'm personally, I think is really, will prove to be really fruitful, is Brave. So the browser that allows you to get access into the Web3 space. They've created it like a business that has fantastic elements in terms of great founders, substantial growth year on year. There's no sudden like sell pressure for their coins because they're all in circulation. They're widely distributed amongst the holders, so there's a low chance of whales actually influencing the price and dumping things in the market. They constantly launch new upgrades, constantly launch new features, and they have pretty decent social strength as well. So I would think about your loyalty program like a business, actually, because that's how people tend to engage in crypto projects in general.
Yeah, I think NFTs are really, right now they're focused on ownership. And as you said, they have to eventually move on to something that they could use, something that they could focus more on utility. So yeah.
Top 3 recommendations to accelerate first-party data collection for small to medium-sized companies. Now, This is my passion because, in order developing markets grow by having small and medium enterprise being very successful in the marketplace. So one of the better way that I find working is to plan ahead with what is coming vis-a-vis your portfolio. For example, if you sell, drinks or hijab fashion, right? Highlight that, the autumn collection is coming, and this would be, would they like to be a part and parcel of the mailing list in order to be able to get these early bird offers and so on, which I think have worked really, really well in some of the small businesses I see in Malaysia. They're very, very good at doing that. In terms, it creates excitement also for for the new launches that are coming. And now with the social platforms that has really democratized, I think, marketing, and there's quite a fair bit of innovative approach that you can do in order to make that happen. So I'm not going to cover 3 recommendations, but if you I have seen this personally, where a small company grow 3-fold over a short period of time just by adopting these type of strategies.
Thank you so much, Juju.
The VR world is something that has been discussed a lot before metaverse. Is VR AR tech something that can be targeted by digital marketing and e-commerce? So I think this is very relevant right now because when the pandemic happened, it was again revitalized, the discussion about augmented reality and virtual reality, because we saw that all of the events actually has become virtual, and that is through digital. And we've been seeing a lot of brands somehow shifting their gears towards virtual reality. And virtual reality has become more than relevant now because people cannot go to certain areas, locations. So a lot of brands, particularly even in Canon, we developed one lens that is virtual reality ready. So it allows different customers to experience certain things in life at the comfort of their houses, but again, have the same experience. One perfect example is that the real estate has been, they do now studio tours virtually. So they just send you their virtual goggles. It could be an Oculus, or it could be as simple as a Google Cardboard. Wear it, use your smartphone, and you experience the same as if you are inside the infrastructure. I have a friend who had a wedding in a beautiful island of Boracay. She cannot invite everyone due to certain restrictions. So what they did is actually they rented around 10 or even 20 Oculus. They had a video production team that takes the wedding virtual reality as if they were sitting in the island. So it's actually a trend that we're seeing. Virtual reality is actually very aligned to how digital evolution is. No, it's not just digital marketing, digital experience, and maybe even e-commerce later on will be seeing this, because we've saw a lot of online sellers doing their own live streams. So maybe brands next time would do their own online selling inside the shops, as if you are inside maybe a Louis Vuitton concept store, and so on and so forth. So I think it's going to be really part of the digital evolution, aligned to how we adapt to this new and better normal.
Yeah, I think we're not entirely new to this. I think IKEA have also jumped into this. They're one of the early adopters of this. And as you've said, not just with the retail, but also with how we conduct our personal events, as what you've said in that event in Boracay, really interesting. So yeah, there's a question here about email subscription lists. So what pitfalls and hurdles should organizations with wide verticals watch out for in regards to email subscription lists to build first-party data?
Having a platform that allows you to have deep segmentation will help you to manage that. There was actually an earlier question as well around how do you personally communicate with loyal consumers without making it repetitive? So managing email lists, understanding who you've connected with across all the, perhaps you have multiple brands in the business as well, making sure that depending on what people open, what links they click on, what content they're tending to unsubscribe from, what they then come to and do when they come to your app or your website, all that data should inform the consumer segment and that individual's information. And the AI machine learning that ideally your platform should learn from that over time. So when it comes to managing multiple brands and pitfalls, I think having disparate technology really makes it super difficult when you have siloed approaches to speaking to the same person, because you could drive somebody crazy, right? I mean, we've all had the experience with retargeting when you buy something and then suddenly you just keep seeing the ad over and over again. And it's, from a media perspective, it's a waste of money. From a consumer perspective, it begins to annoy you. So having that central view of the customer really helps to make that experience better for people, and also helps for your machine learning that's embedded throughout your platforms, make it work harder as well.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you so much to our panelists, Lisa, Andy, and Juju. Again, first of all, for extending your time for us to have a much more meaningful and longer discussion. So thank you to each one of you. We began the discussion with the goal of uncovering what loyalty marketing has in store for us in the next era of digital advertising and marketing, and the insights that you've shared definitely gave us that foundation to build loyalty as a solution. So we're definitely much more confident to face the new phase of digital advertising. So I am sure that our audience also can't wait to adopt the insights and the strategies that you've shared with us today, and be ready for a stronger call for privacy. So as we conclude this webinar, we would like to thank Oracle, who's been our partner for this event. Once again, I am Shaina, and we're looking forward to seeing you in our next conversation.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.